Hi, welcome back to my channel. I just really feel like I was really in the mood to make a video at the moment, and I want it to be something that's just like fun, and we talk about things that put us in a good mood, and we talk about things where we set ourselves goals and we set ourselves good vibe. Do you know what I mean? Opportunities and things like that, because I feel like enough goes on in the world where there is a place to be sad and there is a place to be, wallowing around the saddest things. And it's like we have to carry ourselves through in any environment we adapt to bring ourselves to a place where sometimes we just have to have joyous times. And this is hopefully the corner of my channel where I have created this little place where I want to be on the internet, where we engage in that together. And I'm not being funny, I literally have I feel like for those of us that have ADHD tendencies like myself, many of us have the desire to have business pursuits, and that is something that I've definitely found myself within, and my online shop is on the way to entering back into reality, hopefully in the near future. But I feel like it's just like following your passions in life, because I definitely also found myself wanting an extra income recently, and the more I research about income and the more I actually follow myself down that path of finding other incomes, obviously besides getting a little job that you can obviously just engage with just for whatever reason, it's one of those things where I do notice that your passion, and actually where your passion sits, to be honest, is usually the best place to find an income anyway. It's usually where you're well ingrained to have that sort of practice in that area, to the point where you can then follow that route down somewhere that's actually going to create an income for you. And I feel like that's just a really special thing, to be honest, because it means that for any particular person that brings a certain aspect to life, you can then have that opportunity to be fuck the opposition, and fuck Tom, Dick and Harry and the next person that is going to be bad vibes. Realistically, I'm bringing what I bring to my life and to the world in general, because it's not just about bringing it to other people, it's about bringing it to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Serving yourself is not only avoiding, because I definitely did a video recently as well about changing your mind about things is actually quite normal, and it's readjusting your mindset and readjusting where you are as a person is actually very normal, to have a mindset to go down a particular pathway and then to be oh, actually that's not the pathway I want to take anymore, so I'd actually rather just do a bit of a 90-degree, a bit of a U-turn back to another pathway in life. And I definitely believe that, because realistically we learn and change every day. And I feel like for me in particular, when I learn about concept and when I grow in an area, I'm all about hardcoring that. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. But then it's when you learn about things like fast fashion and you're oh, I just never want to buy fast fashion again. And then it's just everything in moderation. Do you know what I mean? It's literally everything in moderation, because realistically you can actually learn new information as well. I find that you can think, oh, this is the epitome of the answer to this issue, this is the answer to my problems, this is the answer to the way I want to live life in moral standpoint and such like that. But then you can actually be you know what, no, I do need to actually make that adjustment actually for myself, if no one else, because this world is full of people that are going to try and dictate to you what is most important to your reality, where realistically we all know that we need to decide that for ourselves. And I think that is a very important part of life, because there is nothing more liberating than annoying the next bastard that's going to come in there and try and tell you what to do with your time, and actually taking that power back and being do you know what, did I ask for that opinion, or am I just going to carry on being fabulous anyway? Realistically, that is the way and the truth. And sometimes it's just literally that power that just makes life worth living, even in real dire circumstances, I have found by past experience. And so anyway, I mean, it's if this is literally a passion video, if nothing else, to be honest, because I feel I'm always talking about at the moment soul things, I'm waiting, or the universe, especially my podcast, that's been a massive universe thing. I've been oh, the universe is showing me this, the universe is showing me that. But again, I feel it's a moderation thing, to take into account the universe, taking into account the, do you know what I mean, astrological climate, other people to one degree, social issues to one degree, yourself to one degree, what psychology has to say about it to one degree. But then at the end of the day, it always flips around to the next thing. Do you know what I mean? If you're not serving yourself, like I definitely feel like I do need to stand more in this serving yourself era, because I definitely enjoyed that part of my life. And I feel like, to be honest with you, that is how you pursue your goals, actually, to be able to serve yourself in aspects of life. If you don't serve yourself, realistically, how are you going to level up? Because realistically, it's about having the universe demonstrate to you what is being reflected at you. And if you're looking at that core, but also you actually direct the universe yourself in a lot of ways as well. And it's a very powerful place to be in like a place of desire, and to be in a place of like knowing what you're manifesting into your reality at that time. And it's not just about other people. I feel like often when I'm talking about navigating the universe, I definitely focus a lot on the external, and realistically the internal is your control mechanism in general. So I feel like if you're living your life only focused on the external and how to navigate that, it is an important part of life. But then realistically, if you're not like driving your own forward force in that as well, then you're really just like not serving yourself at all. So, you know, that's really annoying. But I do just want to focus like also though on like, I feel like I do feel like being in my best power and in my highest vibrational energy, and actually in my Delulu energy to one degree or another, actually, to be honest, is also a factor. But I also think I have actually been really irritated recently by people that have been in their Delulu era themselves. But having said that, I feel like there's a group of us that are in their Delulu era, and it's a benefit to society and it's a benefit to ourselves, and it becomes a positive outcome because you're not being destructive. But I also feel like there's actually an element of other people that when they're in their Delulu era, it actually becomes a negative influence to a lot of people, and it can be quite destructive to a lot of people. And I feel like we have to just categorize A and B here, because I don't want to feel like I'm frightened out of my Delulu era in category A because of category B of people that are actually trying to like cause a hell of a lot of conflict and negativity with their Delulu era within themselves. Does that make sense? Because I definitely feel like there are two clear categories here, which I do notice. And I feel like when I've gotten irritated, to put it in context, actually, I've been really irritated with a lot of people that have been in their Delulu era in recent times. To the point where I've been like, realistically, can we just like, to the point where you literally, you know, those people where you just like, you like skate over their reality because it's so far in the end of like, you can tell that it's just it's just so backwards, like just to the point where it's like, I can genuinely I can't like even like take what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you even? Do you know what I mean? And there's been so much of that I've seen in like the recent couple of seasons, where I'm just like, realistically, can we just ground ourselves back in truth a minute? And not even like, I've grounded myself back in truth, but now I'm grounding myself back in Delulu as well, because at the end of the day, I don't need to, as I say, dim my own light because of a bunch of people that are like basically dimming other people's light with their delusion. Because there is a difference, I feel like, and I do believe that everyone obviously has the entitlement to be in their Delulu era, but realistically, if you're going to be in your Delulu era by dimming a bunch of other people's light and actually not being respectful of other people and actually just putting people down because of your insecurity that you can't get control of, do you know what I mean? I feel like we all do that to one degree or another, but it can be about intention. And I'm sorry, that is a real thing that people don't talk about. And those of us that I like, you know, I'm massive on morals realistically, but it just has to be said that some people just aren't. And whether they're big on morals or whether they have an underdeveloped sense of self or traumas or wounds that they haven't addressed within themselves, which we all are, you know, capable of having, but realistically, category A and category B does exist. You can get a group of people that, being as healed as they are, doesn't mean that they're still gonna have positive influence on everyone, and honestly not be very humanitarian about a lot of issues in life in general. That has to be said, I feel like. And I feel like that is a fair assumption, even just from a personal perspective, and that's okay. Like, you know, you can't put other people and their Delulu era and their Delulu energy in front of your own pathway to serve yourself, realistically. Because naturally, let's look at it. Does it serve the individual and yourself and myself to actually wait for a bunch of other people's delusional energy to kind of filtrate out of your reality before you can start living your life? Like, how does that make sense? And this is why many of us actually choose to have a residence and a place of being where we can have enough space to live in our own Delulu era and also actually have space for other people's. I definitely agree with that. But I also think in any capacity that is, be that in your living environment, in your work environment, in your living environment, to a place where you're like in a shop and like you get some like rude shop assistant and you're living your best life. Yeah, so this has happened to me many times. You're living your best life and you're like accumulating all these things and you're thinking, yes, this is going in my basket, I can imagine putting this in the bath later, like let's just do all that. And you know, you get all that, and then you get this like rude ass shop assistant, and it's just like I don't know, just like something they do puts you in your way, and it's like, am I going to be distracted by this delusional woman, or am I going to carry on and actually think, you know? And I feel like I was going through a spiritual awakening or something when I really started noticing this type of energy, which would really like affect me, and I definitely hold space for that, because though I've kind of like lived in that space to a point where I'm like completely settled within my outlook on that now, and I totally hold space for that energy. I definitely feel like I was going through a bit of a spiritual awakening at the time, but I hold space for that vibe. It is the truth. And at that point, it's a perfect example to be like, am I going to sit here and wait for like the last delusional woman to like move on with her life before I'm able to like take account of myself and actually prioritize myself, what I need, where I'm going in a situation? Do you know what I mean? Because also what I've noticed recently is like we can all hold space for our own place we're in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I definitely am a believer of like we all are can account our own like space and energy to like a situation. Like we like it doesn't like we can't have like your life can't be perfect at all times, and like I am a bit of a perfectionist, I feel like, but realistically the reality of life is that like not everything is going to be lined up perfectly in all aspects of life. That is just like it's not possible. Like you got an aspect of work, yeah, which could be going really well, but then your like personal life might not be going very well, and it's not for like you to sit there and like wait for judgment of other people or like really be judged or judge yourself, because massively I've noticed recently of like it's really like it really doesn't matter like really what other people think apart from yourself, because as much as I'm like we're all human beings, and you know in a very 5D perspective we are all human beings, like we're all very similar beings and creatures in general, and we all have like our own sort we're all very similar in a sense, but I also feel like space needs to be held for like that natural conflict and contrast that people have in human interaction in general, because you know you're not going to agree with everyone, and realistically like the vast majority of people, this is why I talk about category A and category B of people, even in, you know, I'm sure we all have positive influence to one degree or another, but realistically in the everyday you're just not going to come across people that are perfectly aligned with you. It's not going to happen. So to kind of take that into account and actually pull forward and hold space for yourself is definitely something that is a priority in everyone's life, I feel like. And it's just about getting to the point where you're comfortable moving forward with that mindset actually. But as I say, there are a lot of people which, you know, if you've got a lot of trauma, if you've got a negative upbringing, if you've got a negative past, if you've got a negative moral standpoint in general, because there's a space to be held as well, I would say, for like finding yourself and actually creating space for yourself within an environment and within like a dynamic and a circumstance and a position where you can like sort of like, you know, move your shoulders out a bit, if that makes sense, in a situation where you're like trying to find your grasp and find your feet within a dynamic. And it's like, because things aren't also going to be handed to you on a plate as well. Like how the fuck are you supposed to like get through life, and how are you supposed to achieve things without trying them out and without actually making a bit of a mess sometimes? Do you know what I mean? Without kind of like actually trial and erroring like circumstances, you know. and I feel like so many people, what I really don't want to fall into is being one of those people that like that holds back from actually moving forward in life because of the fear of A, the unknown, but B, the people that are going to judge them for it. Because who the fuck are these people anyway? Like, who are you realistically if you're going to judge me for like living my best life? Like, that's not for me, and that's not for me to worry about realistically. Like, you can go do that, but like, zero fucks given realistically if you've got anything to say about my life, because you don't control it realistically. And that is the thing of because then you can become too passive. Like, there's like that contrast, isn't there, like passive and active, like engagement within anything realistically. But you can definitely, I feel like, become too passive in life sometimes, especially if you have like belief systems around like, you know, parentification, past abuse, like feeling like you are put at like a secondary in whatever format, and you've not been kind of like conditioned to really like prioritize yourself. You can definitely feel like you can be put at a sort of like, you know, passive state, and I feel like it's just really unhealthy. And, you know, it's not necessary, because realistically, in any environment, we're human beings. We live to be, if nothing else. Do you know what I mean? We are not here to exist. We are not plants. We are not, you know, organisms. We are human beings, in fact, and we be as people, and in that comes, you know, growth and movement, and, you know, kinesthetic energy. Kinesthetic? It is kinesthetic, isn't it? I was just trying to remember this word the other day. But like potential energy, yeah, in situations. And I just feel like and this is why I talk about category A and category B of people. A lot of people will actually try and bombard your path to the point of, I'm not saying like, because I definitely, you know, this isn't a universal concept. I'm not talking about universally aligned concepts, paths or anything. I'm talking about people where you can have like an idea, yeah, or you can have like opportunities that happen in life, yeah, you can even have like ideas of what to do in that day or whatever, and then you can come across adversity to that, but it's about fighting the adversity actually, and being like, actually, do you know what, I think I'm going to carry on forward down this path. Actually, to be honest, I don't feel like I am going to fall at the first hurdle just because I've got some, you know, person trying to get in the way of where I'm supposed to go. Do you know what I mean? And that can come in many different formats as well. Like, you know, that, you know, the one example of a shop which I'm talking about, that is an everyday life skill. Do you know what I mean? Not to sink to the level of the Karen at the shop that literally gets the job to be passive aggressive to other people in category B, okay? In category B. But also, and I think it's important to have the group of category A in your life as well, though, to reference and to be able to fill your cup with. But I'm not necessarily talking about social circles here. I'm talking about the life skills that it takes to move through reality with autonomy and with individuality, and to pour from your own cup into yourself. Not so much that, but to work within your locus of control. Because I think it's almost a given that, like, as a contrast, if you have a high energy for things, you're naturally going to meet a high adversity to it because of the law of contrast. And to not acknowledge that means that you will feel like you're doing everything wrong, to be honest. And if you can actually, but I do notice after a point, you can actually use other people's adversity or situations' adversity as momentum to move forward, to be honest, because, you know, that is also how it can work. But otherwise, you either you know, slow down your momentum to match the momentum of other people not doing fuck all around you, or you speed up and you wait to gain that admiration and that positive feedback you're going to get, even from the haters, to be honest, because there will be haters that actually do feed you admiration energy, even if they don't like it and they're jealous of it themselves. Let's not forget that. Because just because, I did hear this the other day, just because someone is adverse to you and you have an adverse experience with them does not necessarily mean that you are the problem. It can just be a direct reflection of the internal inadequacies within oneself, and not oneself as in their self, category B. Potentially category B. And that is really important, because realistically I've always prided myself on my not giving a fuck energy, and I feel like just recent events have definitely squashed that a little bit within me, and I really don't like it. And I really don't feel good about it, because I'm very much I don't give a fuck kind of person, realistically, with pride. And it's not that I don't take pride in what I do, and it's not that I don't take pride in how I come across, but I just don't let the lunatics and the people that are going to try and drag me down have any space in my psyche, because I honestly don't give a fuck what they have to say. So I feel like my passion videos are often a lot shorter than my ramble videos, because even though it was a bit of a ramble, but it was more of a passion video, because they just take it a little bit more out of me. But I feel like just the energy in the ether just had to hear that right now, and I feel like I had to say it for myself, because there is just way too much negative, like, resistant vibes and resistant spirits around, to the point where it's like, you know, people like inhabit that shit. Do you know what I mean? They inhabit adversary vibes within themselves for the sake of putting a detriment on other people. And it's like, when I have my own space, I can just be away from that. But realistically, navigating day-to-day life, you are going to engage with that, be that in a shop, be that in a living environment, be that in a work environment. Do you know what I mean? It is an inevitable contrast of life, but it's about pushing through it and being like, do you know what? I am going to live my best life regardless of my health, regardless of my, looks, regardless of how I feel, and trust in the drive of life and the passion and the power actually that I have in my internal system. And actually what comes with that as well is a sense of identity, and being like, I'm not going to fall into the identity that you give me, or people that put you into a box for things, because I am actually not going to embody the personality or the box that you have with your current understanding in your mental brain. Because realistically, the mental brain and we are a soul. I definitely believe we are a soul within that has a body. Like, I'm not a body, I'm a soul in a body. And that's just one look at it. But it's to say that, like, someone's mental concept of me is not the reality of the situation in entirety. And I am starting to think that life is I feel like life periodically does humble me to make me believe that, like, I am a soul, but, like, I also have to accept that other people are a soul as well. Like, I can't just like I can just hold space for myself being a soul, but realistically life does humble me sometimes, and it's like, I'm not the only soul. Like, I have to, like, allow myself to allow other people being a soul at the same time as me being a soul, because on a mental level, if someone is going to minimize you, and if someone is going to put you into a box and treat you in a particular way, or try and create a situation where you can embody this limited version of oneself for usually the state of themselves, because they don't feel adequate within themselves, or they feel limited by themselves, and they don't feel that they can actually embody that within themselves, is to, you aren't naturally going to evolve past that if you use that I don't give a fuck energy. And if you use that, like, I'm going to basically push forward in a situation, rather than actually dwindle back into the masses of insecure people, where I honestly don't want to evolve in category B areas. Because you have to create an identity for yourself, because realistically your belief system is your reality. You are what you eat, in a sense, but you are what you believe. And you are and unfortunately, when you've got toxic negative people around you that are trying to indoctrinate you and your personality and your belief systems into this toxic belief system that isn't aligned with your highest good, like, I do feel like, that is just the ultimate fail. Realistically, it's going to lead you down a negative path. And realistically, if you want to be a bad bitch, I like to use the word bad bitch, and you are going to be around people that are going to make you feel like a flop, you're just going to act like a flop, potentially. You might not, because your soul might not kind of be that way, but realistically, if you have an image, because I'm a very visual person, if you have an image of who you want to be and what belief systems you want to drive towards, I feel like this is very common for people, especially that have like high levels of idolization, like myself, is to drive towards a kind of a visual and a concept, and because I'm quite philosophical as a Sagittarius, to drive towards a concept in order to create their reality and create their, manifestation. And I'm very much like that as a person, and I'm just repping all those people at the moment really that need that, to be honest, because there are enough people like that don't know how to rep themselves, so they like bring other people down, and I've never been one to fall into that. But yes, so endeth my rant, and I really feel like I needed that, because really the sky is the limit. I'm starting to see with the achievement you can actually create, and I'm definitely on this like new mode of like, I want to create my dream life, to be honest. I feel like my income is actually from the idea of outsourcing, it's very much in my own control. I used to think I'd always be like poor, but realistically I'll only always be poor if I choose to always be poor, and I don't choose to like outsource my resources. Even if I don't have a skill, I can outsource a resource for someone to then do that, and then to, do you know what I mean, create a business out of that. It's easy actually, and it's actually within grasp to actually attain what you choose to attain in situations, much more so than people want to believe, I feel like. And I'm really starting to see that, and it's actually very exciting. So hopefully we can embody that in the next few videos, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.